Good morning. Myself Ramarao, working as assistant professor in the Department of CSE in Gpcet-Cse-Java College of Engineering and Technology. Now I want to discuss UNIT2 topics of Java programming. Object-oriented programming concepts. In Java, everything is considered as an object. So here an object contains two important things, that means state and behavior. The state will be represented by using some set of variables, and the action or behavior of the object will be represented by using methods. For example, if we take a circle object, the state of the circle object will be represented by using the radius. That means how big it is or how small it is. That will be represented by using the radius of the circle. Next, what are the operations or actions on the circle object? That means find area. Okay. Class and objects. So here we have created a circle as a radius, a circle class with only one property, that is radius of double type. We can find the area, so find area is the action. So state contains only one property, radius, and actions contains only one action, that is find area. So new circle, when we create an object for this circle, it will create circle 1 with radius 2. When we create circle 2 with circle radius 3, and so on, we can create n number of objects to this class. The declaration syntax of a class is this one. So class name, then list of properties, then list of methods. Okay, so here only one property, that is radius, and there is one action, find area. When we call the find area method, it will calculate the area of circle pi r square. Okay, so radius into radius into 3.14159. After declaring a class, then we have to create a reference variable to that class. Then we can create the reference variable to the class by using class name and any reference name, any variable name. For example, here we have created a circle class, so we can create a reference variable to the circle class like this, circle my circle. Now the my circle variable will point to the object of the circle class. After creating a reference variable, we can initialize that reference variable to a particular object of the same class type. So in order to create an object, we have to use the syntax like this. Object reference is equals to new class name. Here new is an operator to create an object dynamically during the execution of the program. Here our example is circle, so my circle is equals to new circle. So the object reference is assigned to the object reference variable. Declaring or creating objects in single step. So we can combine the declaration of reference variable and the creation of object in the same line. So class name, reference name is equals to new class name. In our example, circle my circle is equals to new circle. Here we have created a reference variable called my circle, and at the same time we are initializing that reference variable to a particular object in the same line. So we can combine the object variable creation and the object creation in the same line. Next, what are the difference between variables of primitive types and object types? So primitive types will have some location that will contain the value, but object type reference variables will have some memory location, but that particular memory location will not contain the actual value. It will hold the address of the address where the object is created. Okay. Next, copying variables of primitive data types and object types. So primitive type assignments, I is equals to j. So before and after, I is equals to 1 and j is equals to 2. When we execute I is equals to j, the contents of j will be stored in I. Okay, so I contains 2 and j contains 2. So that is in the case of primitive type assignments. Suppose if you take object type assignment, that is C1 is equals to C2. So before, C1 is pointing to the C1 object and C2 is pointing to C2 object, circle object. circle2 object. When we assign c1 is equals to c2, then the address that is there inside c2 will be initialized to c1. Now c1 also points to the circle object 2 instead of pointing to the circle object 1. Next, garbage collection. So as shown in the previous example, after the assignment of c1 is equals to c2, c1 points to the same object referenced by c2. The object previously referenced by c1 is no longer useful. When the object is not useful, then we can delete that object by using a separate mechanism called garbage collection. The garbage collection mechanism is responsible for removing the unwanted objects from the RAM. If you know that object is no longer needed, you can explicitly assign value to reference variable for that object. The Java JVM will automatically collect the space if the object is not referenced by any variable. Next, accessing objects. In order to access the data of the particular object, then we have to use object reference name dot data member. In our example, myCircle.radius. In order to invoke the methods of on a particular object, then we have to use the reference of object, then dot method name. Similarly, we in our example myCircle.findArea. So in order to access the properties or the actions of a particular object, then we have to use the reference name as a base. So constructors are used to initialize the state of an object. Constructor has the same name as the class name. Here our class name is circle, so the constructor has the same name as the class name. There are different types of constructors: no argument constructors and argument constructors. A constructor with no parameters is referred to as default constructor. Constructors may have the same name as the class name. The constructor doesn't have the return type, even void. Constructors are invoked when using the new operator when an object is created. Constructors play the role of initializing the state of an object. So the constructors are main important when we have to initialize the state of an object. Without the constructor, it is very difficult for us to initialize the state of an object. Next, passing objects to methods. We can pass normal variables to the methods. Similarly, we can pass an object to the methods. So how we pass objects to methods? Here in the main method, we pass n value that contains 5 print area method. N will be passed to print area method, so 5 will be stored here. So that is passed by value. In our example, myCircle, it passes the reference variable. It passes the reference variable of a particular variable. So the same reference variable will be sent to print area method. So now the reference automatically points to circle. So it is one type of call by reference mechanism. So when we calling a method, we send the actual address of an object. Instead of sending the copy of an object, we send the address of an object. So the called method will go to the particular data location and it will use. Instance variables and methods. Instance variables belong to a specific instance. Instance methods are invoked by an instance of the class. Class variables, constants and methods. Class variables are shared by all the instances of the class, but the class methods are tied up to specific object. Class constants are final variables shared by all the instances of the class. To declare a class variable constant and methods, then we have to use a static modifier. So when we create the static variables, in order to access that variables, we need not to create an object for that particular class. We can access directly. Next, class variables, constants and methods. So this example shows the radius, what are the list of properties of the radius class and what are the methods and the scope of variables. The scope of instance and class variable is entire class. So if we create a variable inside a class, that class variable can be utilized inside the total class. They can be declared anywhere inside the class. The scope of local variable starts from the declaration of and continues to the end of the block. The local variables will start its lifetime when we create a particular variable inside a block. When the control comes out of that particular block, the variable lifetime will automatically destroy. Okay, so a local variable must be declared before it can be used. This keyword. In order to refer the current state of an object, then we have to use this keyword. Use this to invoke other constructors of this object. If you want to call the superclass constructors of a particular object, then also we can use this. Class variables, constants and methods. Class variables are shared by all the instances of the class, but the class methods are tied up to specific object. Class constants are final variables shared by all the instances of the length. In order to know how many characters are there in the particular string, then we can use the length method like this: int length of mod palindrome of dot length. Concatenating two strings. In order to concatenate two strings, we can use the concat method, or we can use the plus operator to concatenate the two strings. So when we create the static variables, in order to access that variables, we need not to create an object for that particular class. We can access directly. It's class variables, constants and methods. So this example shows the radius, what are the list of properties of the radius class, and what are the methods, and they equals method. In order to compare the values of two objects, then we have to use the equals method. If the contents of the both two objects are same, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. To declare a class variable, constant and methods, then we have to use a static modifier. Using command line arguments. Sometimes you will want to pass some information to the program before it runs. That can be accomplished by using the command. When we pass command line arguments, those command line arguments will automatically transfer to the strings args of square brackets. Those arguments will be given as parameters to the main method. The data that we send from the keyboard will be received into the args of array. Okay. For int I is equal 0, 0 dot less than args dot length. How many times the loop repeats? That is, if the length based on the length of the args length, that many times the loop will be executed. For I is equal 0, I less than args dot length. Suppose if you have entered 4 strings, then 0 less than 4 true, then the loop will be executed. That particular argument will be displayed on the output. So it prints the following output. During the execution of the program, we are giving Java command line. This is command line 200 and 100. So it will produce the following output.